ladies and gentlemen, if there are any watching. There we are. Oh dear, let's remove those glasses. That's cool there. Let's sort out the phone, which we've not turned it off. So let's get this sorted out so it doesn't bing horrible messages and noises throughout the live. I normally do this before I go live, but hey ho. House is in chaos because we've still got decorators in. There we are. Excellent. That can go there. That can go there. Lovely. Someone's come in to watch, which is lovely. Lovely. Hi Joan. Good morning Magdalena. Thanking you for joining me this morning. Oh, let's just turn that down as well. There we are, and then we've got two devices and we can hopefully see what we're up to. We are, I think, yeah, we're just before 10. The plan is to start around about 10. We'll just grab a few brushes from the floor. We've got something that's vaguely respectable to use. Some don't matter. There we are, some scrubby brushes, which are my leftover ones. So we're not quite there. I've got about 25 tons of paints and mediums lurking, because that's just what you do when you have it going alive. They're all tucked out of sight. So, oh, sorry about that. That was a nasty squeak. Cool. So, we are going to be using coffee and chocolate. Good morning, Joe. Hello, Marisol. Welcome, welcome. We don't need that one. We might not need that one. I think some of those we may well need. Some of those we don't need. So let me just pop some of this lot out of the way. There we are. Definitely don't need those two. Do need that. Do need them. Do need those. Do need that. Let's shuffle those out of the way. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Olympia. I hope that all is well in Greece. Hello, Alison. I trust that you are well. Good morning, Marisol. I hope that you are not too cold in Andorra. So, we are going to be upcycling this frame. I've managed to break the glass, so it's not particularly usable as a frame, so I just thought I would do something different with it. This was black and brown. It's got lots of texture on it. There we are. If I tilt it, I think you'll be able to see the texture better. And I have already given that a coat of primer so that could be dry, because it's a plasticized frame from, I think, probably Home Sense. That's where I get lots of them for. So I want to pop that over there, and I wanted a nice background piece for my imagery, so we're going to make a home decor piece. That's good, Marisol. And if I just pop it onto here, it's going to fade into the background more than I really want it to do. So I have some acrylic primer here, which I'm going to use as a base. It doesn't need to be pristine white, which is just as well, because it won't be. It'll sink in to this, which is, I think, a piece of of MDF in the back of the frame. But it will give me a paler base. Might need 2 layers. Let's just pop that out of the way. Doesn't need to be painted, because that's clearly not the bit we're working for. So priming is really, yeah, I vary. So last week when I did my live, because I was layering lots of colours on top and was going for a shabby effect, I didn't bother to prime at all. But because I'm wanting the true colours of my rice paper to show, and I'm not intending adding extra colours to this bit, then this absolutely does need a base layer that is primed and white. So it's about using your products appropriately. Yeah. Sorry for moving away, but did I put? Yeah. I've also got a DT piece on the masons on the go, so I've had to have a good made. You're very welcome, my darling. You're very welcome. I have left a few design teams for a whole host of reasons, and this is allowing me a lot more creative freedom. But I've got masses and masses of product, and so it makes sense, I think, to continue to use and to continue to make. And of course I remain with Pentart for however long they'll have me, really. No idea where they'll go. I know that they are going to be changing the format of how they present the DT products over the next few months, because I've been asked to change the blurbs that we send in to something that is more chatty, more friendly, more like a typical blog post rather than a company blog post. We'll see how that goes. It's cool. Please feel free to share the video anywhere else. I really don't have any concerns about people copying my ideas, taking inspiration, because I firmly believe that people will never be able to recreate anything I do exactly, because I would always encourage you to use the paints and mediums you have, and if you need a substitute because you don't have what I'm using, then just let me know and I'll think of something that will work for you. This really does need to have a dry, I'm afraid, ladies, so you know, that's just one of the joys of live creating. And I could have done this beforehand, but as I say, sometimes you just have to go with it, don't you? So the wet areas will spread about a bit more, and that's fine, but I'm going to add a second layer. Bit of texture isn't going to matter because we're layering on top. I could have layered a piece of ordinary paper on here, but I had some rice papers, and I like the translucency of them very much. So let's just add a little bit more. You can see by adding the second layer of the acrylic primer, I've got a more solid background. The edges will be tucked into the frame, so that's not a problem. The background is mottled, so absolute perfection not required. But of course, if you wish perfection, then let each layer dry properly before you start adding another one on the top. But if I do that, we might be here for the next century. And that's cool, but maybe I've got other things I need to do, like empty out another room. I've left my lovely husband sorting through junk drawers today so that he can get rid of a whole mountain of stuff that's been sitting in drawers for longer than I care to think about it. So good morning, Gail, thank you for joining me this morning. That's lovely, welcome to the group. Good morning, Susan, thank you for joining us. That's lovely to see you. We'll give this a bit of a dry. There we are. It is lovely to see people coming in and joining and supporting. I'm hoping that bit by bit we can build an audience. Yeah, I think it depends, doesn't it, Crafty Jacks? I will quite often watch at night on my phone, so I've got a tiny image. There we are. I think that's reasonably dry. But actually being able to watch on your on a bigger screen means that you can see more details. I think it can be quite difficult, can't it, otherwise? So there we are. So I have got some decoupage varnish and glue here, which I'm going to use. Now this is a whole piece of rice paper here, that's the first image, but it conveniently, I think, divides into two different areas. The house, which I can use on a different project, and these are for the bottom. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm using decoupage glue and varnish, and I've got a huge pot. This is from Pentart, it's their Silky Shine variation, and it will, by sealing on top and underneath, it's going to allow me to have be able to add colours and white back if I want to. Though to be fair, I'm not intending doing lots of distressing and antiquing directly on the top of this, because I think it's already has a distressed enough feel as it is. Now decoupage glue and varnish is a lightweight medium, and therefore it's really best suited for, as its name says, decoupage, rather than doing other things. And decoupage with lightweight products, not wrapping paper, which I saw someone suggesting you could do. It will work, but actually it's an expensive option for doing that with. And like many things, if you can afford the right product for the right thing, then globally you will be better off for doing that. You could, it's quite thin, it's like, you know, I don't know, very thin, almost like thin single cream in the UK. It's definitely thicker than milk, definitely not as thick as a standard double cream, so somewhere around that. So if you haven't got decoupage glue like this, take your standard PVA glue. That, just be aware that it will dry shiny if you use a standard PVA glue, and please then just water it down, because that will give you a nice consistency that will travel over your papers comfortably. And you might or might not have noticed that I either go vertically or horizontally when I'm gluing. I don't scrubble back and forth, and that's a habit I'm in, and a habit that's useful, particularly if you are going to be adding antiquing products, because if you've got brush marks, they'll pick up into all of the lines, and it's nicer for the eye if they are vertical or horizontal rather than scrabbled all over the place, if that sort of makes sense. So I've popped that there down on the floor to dry. So this is my frame, and again I'm intending painting this with Decor Metal Matte in chocolate, because it's a nice brown, and then we are going to be antiquing this, and it will cover directly over the white, which is what I did on my Stamperia live the other day. Perhaps we won't use that one that I have dried up. Just bear with while I pick that. Don't go flying over that, and just pick up a pot of primer paste. There we are. Now, although this black gesso is primer paste is going to say it's magnetic, that's not what I'm using it for. It's a primer paste, so don't be stressing. But as I say, I am trying my best to be well behaved and use stuff up. So generally, if you're adding metallics to things, you are better off starting on a black base. So hence the black adding to over here. But even though it's a primer paste, this is a primer, I have still added primer, the white primer, onto my plasticized surface. You could possibly get away with just the gesso in itself, but if you want a piece that's going to have longevity, you can generally scratch gesso off plasticized surfaces. So for me, it's worth taking the trouble to add onto here, and you can see that this paint is going, you know, the primer is going down, the gesso is going down quite smoothly and is covering nicely and isn't beading. If you've got a plasticized surface and it's not going to take it, then what will happen is that as you add your paints and things, it sort of all beads, like water would do on cellophane. And as these are waterproof water-based products, you can see why it might then be an issue. So let's just pop this into here. Metallic colours definitely, I think, look, coat better onto, or just look more rich when they're put onto a black surface. Good morning, Denai. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's much appreciated. I know the Sunday mornings lives won't be for everyone because some people will be going off to church, and that's just fine. Lives are here to be picked up and watched whenever anyone wants to, which is really good and really helpful, and hopefully then they can be seen. Next, I will be doing a live next Sunday, which is cool. I'm probably going to be back using Alchemy of Art next Sunday rather than here, rather than Stamperia, but papers. I'm going to try and mix things up a little bit with my papers. So I am going to ask an open question, not necessarily for next week because of house in chaos. I might not have time to do the prep for something that isn't really a mixed media type make, but I also make memory albums, and we'll quite often have a mixed media component to those. So those might need to go, if I'm making an album from scratch rather than a pre-bought base, although there are plenty of those around, it would probably take a couple of lives. So firstly, would people like me to make an album from scratch? So you can see how to do it, and if the answer to that is yes, you would quite like me to do an album, then would you like it to be over 2 consecutive days, a weekend, or over 2 weekends? So answers on a postcard, please, but some guidance as to what you would like would be amazing, if that's okay. So that is as a primer paste, and this one will say it's magnetic, but actually I'm not using the magnetic component of it. Good morning, Sabine. So Faith, that's yes to an album, my darling, and over 2 weekends. We can do that. So, and Alison also saying over 2 days. 2 consecutive. So Alison's saying over 2 consecutive days. 2 days over. Crafty Jack, same weekend or alternative weekends? And I'll go with the majority. You'd love the album. Okie dokie. Same, either is okay. Brilliant. Okie dokie. So sometimes it's more difficult time-wise for me to commit 2 consecutive days. That's why I was asking the question. You'd prefer same weekend. Okie dokie. Alison's first incident was consecutive days, and that's also fine. So that will require quite a lot of prep, and that's also cool because it will also slow the numbers of makes that I'm going to be making over. So I'll prep for probably maybe a 6-inch square album, maybe. I think you two should be okay for us. It also mean that an album would be very different for you because it's so not it's not necessarily a mixed media piece. It's much more a paper craft piece. But I'm very conscious I have a lot of people who like paper crafts that follow me and that's you know, so it's trying to accommodate everyone with what we're doing, whatever's best for me. Well, right, okie dokie. So I've got lots of papers that I need to use, so I will put together an album, get some pieces of grey board and things cut so they're ready, and then we'll go through that, and we might run a series of different ones over the next few months, showing different ways of constructing albums and their pros and their cons and their benefits, and that might be helpful for everyone. And we'll mix it up, so maybe we'll try an album each month over for 2 weekends, and we'll do 2 mixed media pieces. You've no idea of palette paper. Well, your furniture is beautiful. Your furniture is beautiful. I need this to dry. Well, I think, Sabine, we all have things that we like, don't we? That's the joy of us all being individuals. You know, and it wouldn't do, ultimately, if we all did like, that's still damp, if we close measure so we can craft it along. Yeah, absolutely, we can do that, my darling, if that's what you want. Definitely a 2-part live is more conducive, I think, to crafting along, but if that would be helpful, Alison, I can certainly do that. And then of course there's a record of what the measurements are, which means then if you're wanting to replicate it, it's easier to find. Because one of the things that I find is that I've watched so many different lives on different things, and then you remember, but you don't remember fully, and therefore, when you try to recreate, it doesn't quite go so well, and then I can't find the live that it was on, and then I get frustrated. I think I'm human, and that's just what happens, isn't it? So let's just shuffle that and get rid of some of that mess. Sorry about the squeaking, that's the metal lugs for putting the piece back in, isn't it? That's breaking on my glass mat. There we are. Let's have a little bit of a clean while we're going. I don't really want to be working in a mess. There we are. And I need that to dry. It won't be perfect, but that's also just fine. So I think we're getting there. And I can see where I've missed bits, but again, again's not going to matter overall. So that can go there. Let's just put that back in there, and let's take this. Now this is deluxe metal matte, and it is it's water based. It's metallic but matte, which don't necessarily sit together, but there we are, that's the way it is. And it's got filled with lots of mica, so it's a product that you absolutely always have to give a good shake. Brand new pots, you definitely can see a separation of the carrier acrylic from the rest of it. Pop that on there because that's going to be going on there. Very good. So I'm still technologically a little challenged, shall we say, so I don't necessarily save stuff, and if I did, I'd probably have so many saved I would still have an issue with finding it. There we are. Stick that over there. So let's just pop this over here and make sure we get it into all of the nooks and crannies. because that's one of the headaches, isn't it, with working with a piece that's texturized, is that you have lots of nooks and crannies. So when I'm doing something like this, I always take my colour theme and choose my colours based on the colours that are in the papers that I'm going to use. I'm sure you'll have noticed that I tend to I work in themes and colours, and it'd be very rare for me to do anything that doesn't have a paper element to it. I do stamp. I've been on on stamping design teams before, but I usually, as I say, will have stuff there. So let's just give that another little stir. Pop that onto there. There. Good morning, Karen. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Good morning, Susanna. Thank you for joining us this morning. So we are doing a mixed media piece. You upcycling a frame that I got from HomeSense, which had lots of texture. So when I'm looking at things, if I'm buying products, I quite often look for texture, combination of things, texture and style. So for this piece, it was very much the texture that I wanted, because I sort of think it feels a little bit as though I've got lots of coffee beans lined up on the surface. There's certainly no need to do that. And if you didn't have a textured frame, then you could add your own texture with modelling paste, or add clay over the front and then press some stamps or impression moulds into the clay. It's another technique for another day. So, but if you can buy something that's already done for you, well, it just short circuits things. Yeah, we all see things slightly differently, don't we? But I think it just looked like coffee beans, and therefore seemed to me to be a logical piece to use. And I know I'm using chocolate as for my colour, but then we've got brown coffee beans anyway, don't we? So, and we're going to add some distressing onto this when it's had a chance to dry. So let's see if we can pop this down. Oh, enjoy, Faith, enjoy. Walk along the coast with dogs sounds wonderful. So let's just move that over there, that over there, and let's have a little wipe down. There we are. I'll put that over there. As I say, I'm very much aware that life is busy, life gets in the way, and people should be getting on with these and enjoying life to the max. And I craft because it's good for my overall well-being. So there we are. So then we have, pop that out the way. We've got some papers. So we've got plants, 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 label, 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 pot, that, plants, label, plant, 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 plant. We think there should be another one of them. Or maybe not. No. Right, excellent. So these have already been primed, which again I think will make life easier. And so we're going to go for our Hessian bags. So we're going to do these in a couple of different colours. We've got some decor metal decor soft chalky. I've clearly not used this one for a long time. It's called milk chocolate. I thought I picked up mandel, but this will work just as well. So let's just give that a little bit of love. Add some water to it. There we are. And give it a bit of a stir. There we are. It's actually quite soft underneath. You cannot do this if you've got, you know, once it's solid, it just doesn't absorb in. There we are. That will make life much easier for me. Let's just put most of that back into there, pop that there, and then we can work off there. And that's what happens, because when I'm creating it, certainly in the summer, I've quite often leave my pots on when I'm working, which is not a great thing to do. So that's more like a linen sack. This one is definitely more like a Hessian sack, and we're going to cover this. We're not going for complicated or detailed painting, because life's quite frankly too short, and there are ways, as I've said before, of bringing out texture and altering things up anyway. And the next decision I need to make when I'm doing these is, are we going to go for coffee beans that have been roasted already, or am I going to go for coffee beans that are very pale from pre-roasting? Because the dark that we associate with coffee is actually the result of the raw beans, which they're described as green, but they're not green, but they're unfermented and unroasted, are definitely much more paler in colour. So there we are. Let's just pop that into there, from there, and I think we will have a couple that are going to be in this colour, and then we'll swap things around. It's definitely a beigey brownie based project today, but it won't. We've got some greens to add in, and we might add in some pale greeny blues as well, into some of the pieces. We'll see how it goes. Good morning, Ginny. Thank you for joining me this morning, my darling. It's lovely to see you. And good morning, Elaine. Thank you for joining me this morning. You definitely have to have, when you're doing a live, 2 screens active, because when you go live in Facebook, it gives you a screen so you can see who's commenting, but on my phone I get messages that say who's watching, and those don't appear on the Facebook live feed. So there we are. Right. So we've got some coffee beans here. I know we've got 3 of them, so let me find the third one. She says, I know I had 3. Can I find 3? No, can I find 3? That means it's gone walkabouts around the room somewhere. And I've dropped it, but that's okay. We'll manage without. So these are definitely non-roasted because they're in the pots. There we are, and it will allow me to use that up because we've got the beans on show. There we are. Do that bit. That's coffee beans out of pots, so there we are. Not that that would be anatomic or botanically accurate in any way, shape or form, because they wouldn't be exposed like this with bits of leafery hanging out. But there. So we will just carry on. and some of these details are definitely too small to paint each of the coffee beans completely separately. You might just drive yourself a bit doolally, I think, if you try to do that. I'm sure there are model makers who could do it, but I think it might take an awful long time to paint each one separately, and that's cool if you've got the time to do it, but maybe not so cool if you haven't got the time to do it. There we are. And certainly on a live, I don't really think I've got the time to do it all. There we are. But even on a live, it is definitely worth just taking your time to get it so it looks nice. I need some better brushes for this bit, so let's just swap to here. While we paint our beans in. And yes, it might take a while because we've got a few of these to do, but that's also just fine too. There we are. So these pieces I've cast with resin, but they could just as easily be cast with clay and left to dry. And if you're wanting to shape them, then definitely clay is the easier thing to do, to use. There we are. So we'll just get lost in our painting. So what's everyone else? Good morning, Karen. Thank you for joining us this morning. So what's everyone up to for the rest of your weekend? I know there's been quite a lot of illness around, so I hope that everyone who's watching is well, rather than suffering from the dreaded lurgies that are going round. There we are. So this is what, I don't know, it's that double O brush. There we are, a little round brush which will make life much easier. I do have some triple O's and smaller, but you know, you don't necessarily want to be watching all of that because it really would take forever. There we are. So, looks, oh no, it has not frozen. I thought my face camera had, well, head camera, whatever, my camera in camera had frozen, but it hasn't, so that's cool. Oh, you're doing Finnabear's winter retreat. That will keep you entertained nicely, I think, Alison. Finnabear is a great teacher. I've done a few face-to-face classes with her over the years. It's her fault that I got into mixed media. I use the word term fault very liberally because I wouldn't have it any other way. I went to a class thinking this probably isn't going to be for me, but if I'm going to have an explore, I might as well have a dabble with someone who is an acknowledged expert. So that was in 2016, I think. And shall we say, we haven't really looked back since, though my style has definitely evolved. I very rarely layer assorted bits, slap black or white all over it and then add colour. I'm much more of a thematic maker than that, but I like her techniques very much, and she's so good at, as I say, at teaching. And her class, she's very generous with her experience, and she's also very generous with her products in class. even if someone then goes and thinks that they're expensive. I think when you look at the value of what she gets, but she's not. And my back has decided to hurt me this morning, so you might lose my image. If you do, just let me know. I'm just going to sit myself down because it's going to stabilise things a little bit more, and I'm going to pop back into here. And actually you can only just see the top of my head when I'm sitting down, so let me just tilt that camera down a little bit. That hopefully will, when Facebook catches up with me, allow you to, that's better, to see. And then I can be sitting down, and then I've probably got stuff in front of me. Happy birthday, Joan. Welcome. Look, didn't realise it was your birthday this morning. And I'll reopen my pot of paint in a minute. There we are. It's going to be easier to paint in all this detail, I think, sitting down. Maybe I should get used to working more sitting down. Let's shuffle that in there, out of the way, and we'll carry on. We're just going to add these as if they're sun-ripened beans rather than roasted beans, because you wouldn't have roasted beans on the tree itself. Mind you, you wouldn't have them free like this. They'd always be in their pods, but that is definitely artistic license, I feel, and that's also cool. We're entitled to have artistic license when we're doing these things. So we'll just, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask away. It's all very good and well. There we are. Because there isn't any easy way, I'm afraid, of short-circuiting some of this. It just has to be done. There we are. Do you want me to grab it, Crafty Jacks, so you can see what it's like? Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, she says, trying to go flying over her mountaineering of activity. She says, there we are. So, Crafty Jacks, this is the mould that you're talking about, my darling. It is Stamperia silicone mould. I think if you look at these and you look at the price, you go 20 quid, that's expensive. And I can see where you might feel about that. But this is a proper silicone mould. My only gripe would be it's a bit thin in the bottom, in some places it's perfectly thick enough for what I do. But actually, it's an equivalent size. It's slightly bigger than their standard Finnabair mould, and their RRPs at the moment are around £22.95. So actually, 20 quid isn't bad. And before people shout, I'm very much aware that if you shop around, you can get the Finnabair moulds for variably from sort of £18 upwards, but their RRP is currently £22.95 or more. So that one wasn't the paint I used, and that is going to hit in the bin because that one is solid. So there we are, and that's what happens. There we are. Let's just pop that there. I can see some bits that are shining through. By the time I add some antiquing gels into some of these, it's not going to be so obvious. So we're going to have some in our things that are sorry for enabling some that are pre-roasted, and we'll have some that are not pre-roasted. When I was a child, we had a proper metal percolator at home, and every so often my mum would go into our local town, which was called Bromley, and there was a proper old-fashioned coffee house there, and which was upstairs. And at the front of the house sold amazing cakes, but they roasted all of their own coffee on site, so it came in as raw beans, was then roasted on site, and then so you could go and get it, and they ground it to your, to whatever ground that you wanted, or however thick, fine you wanted it. And on very, very rare occasions, we were taken upstairs for a coffee or we would have had a cold drink or hot chocolate. We definitely, as very small children, wouldn't have had coffee but it was a real special treat, and they had the most lovely cream cakes, which were definitely a luxury. I mean, now you can go into any supermarket and buy cream cakes, but these were proper artisanal made, luxurious cakes. They were lovely. So I suspect, Crafty Jacks, if you're still watching, that's Crafty will have them, and Charmed Cards and Crafts are likely to have the moulds in. I think that Dawn Bibby hasn't brought them in, so I don't think it's worth looking on her page, because she's not brought in Stamperia for the last few collections, partly because of the minimum. The way that Stamperia work is that their retailers get different discount brands depending on the volume of stock that they commit to buy over the year, but they also have a minimum order amount for each order you place, and that means that you have to buy, as a retailer, quite a lot of stock, and then it might just sit there, because particularly when Create and Craft then bring it as a big bundle, so I think it's difficult. So they're sitting there. We will add some antiquing from that. Let me just wipe this mess up off here. Because otherwise I shall put my mitt in it. I can see it happening, because that's just what will go on. There we are. Okay, so she says, so did I get mud grey? Did I get, excuse my language, just let me go and grab muddy grey from the list over here, because I want a muddy grey if I can find it. I don't necessarily want the brown. I definitely don't want that brown. That might work. I'll find mud grey. That's brown. I know it's not matte, and it's not Mandel, which would be the other colour that I would choose to have. What happens when you have too much stuff, isn't it? Okay, let's just do a little bit of play then. We might go for, like I said, that one I think looks more like a canvas bag, so let's just go with this, which is actually called apricot rather than green. That's another one that's on its way out, so let's just add a bit of that into there. Grab a palette knife. There we are. happens when you craft with an oak in the conservatory in the summer with pots open. Yeah, absolutely. Laura has a fab range of stuff and very good shipping. Having said that, Charm Cards and Crafts has been around for since I started crafting, and she has a very good service too. So let's just add some, make this look like a bit more like a linen base. Good morning, Joe. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're upcycling a frame this morning, and then we're adding some painted elements and some rice paper. There we are. And we'll bring out the details in these when they're dry anyway. So there we are. That's working quite nicely. We've got some waxes, we've got some antiquing gels out, so that will all work, which is cool. And I shall end up with sticky mucky icky fingers, but that's also fine. So one of the things about the moulds from Stamperia is that they've managed to get masses and masses of texture into the moulds, so adding some antiquing will work, and that doesn't always mean that you have to go with an oil-based antiquing wax. I've gravitated more and more towards using the water-based antiquing gels rather than wax-based products, but again, each product has its own use. Well, I sort of thought if I went live at 10, Joe, that I would, if you were going to go, I know you had a mammoth shopping live yesterday, but I thought if I went live, then this would avoid problems and clashing with you if you were going to go live later on. So I'm going to add, this is brown decor paint chalky. I do have some mats out, but I'm not necessarily going to use those. So there we are. We're going to mix, custom mix, so we don't have quite such a dark brown for these. I want it a bit more than that, but there we are. So these are our ripened coffee pods on the tree, and someone can probably tell me that they're not brown, but hey ho, that's what we're going with at the moment. There we are. We can add some dry brushing with some green when we paint the leaves. There we are. We can neaten that up when we're ready. Sometimes it's definitely easier to paint the base layer colours or the more intricate bits first, and then you can touch up or avoid it with when you're doing the bigger area painting. I think you just have to find an approach that works for you. And most of you will know that I tend to colour mix inherently, so I don't have a single flat colour for my pieces. There we are. Right, let me wriggle that, because I definitely want some of the coffee beans to be darker than the other colour that I've got working there. Yeah, absolutely. See, this is my relaxation, Joe. It has to be said. So we'll have some roasted coffee beans in here. Maybe not dark roasted, but that's also, but definitely not burnt. Might add a little bit of earthy brown onto that, because roasted coffee beans are definitely a bit darker than that. So that's also fine. Yeah, that's possibly a mix of the two will work nicely. So we'll just add in and have the two. Good morning, Louisa. Welcome, welcome. I trust you're well this morning. There we are. We'll add little bits. We're going to try and behave and not do too much double dunking, but hey, they are my pots of paint, so it won't actually do any harm. If I mix the colours, it'll be my fault, and I'm lucky enough to have more anyway, so there we are. Let's just add a little bit onto there, she says, and then probably adds an awful lot. So my beans are no longer a single colour there. And there we are. I'll add some added detail onto that one. So we've got some mixes. It's not all the same. There we are. Rid of that excess paint. Onto here. We'll not be here for hours, I don't think, with the painting, but we are going to be a wee while. But that's also just fine. So that is the beans all spilled out of that pot onto there, as if they're lying down abandoned in a warehouse. There we are. I'm talking about coffee. I'm completely off tangent, but has anyone ever had any of the civet, the cat, the big cat coffee? Sounds revolting to me, but hey ho, why would you want to have something that a cat had eaten, gone through its digestive tract and then peed out? But hey ho. Oh, so what are you having for your brekkie, Louisa? I had a Taste the Difference, or someone's finest tea cake, because that was what was left in the cupboard that needed using up. Taking 5 adapters at a crazy 2 weeks before. Okay. Yeah, well, my Christmas stuff never got up because we had decorators in. Simple as. Right, let's see what we've got. We've got some. These are acrylic paint matte, so we've got some pine green. Let's just move that out of the way. Move that out of the way. We have some, maybe we won't use the hazelnut for the leaves, we might use that for something else. This one is country green, steak square size, bacon, scrambled egg and sourdough toast. That sounds like, perhaps we won't be using that. Well, there you are. Do I have more of that? Yeah, we do. But what, as I say, I'm on a mission to be using stuff up. This is vintage green. It's quite a nice colour. There we are, and we have some olive. And then we have the big pot of country green lurking over there. If we want to add a paler colour, ultimately, I might do some dry brushing with that. So there we are. And let's just add a little bit of that. So the little pots make dispensing stuff. Okie Joe, just take care and be safe with what you're doing. Let's just have another little paintbrush. We've got lots of them, and let's paint these. So we're going to colour mix on our on our pieces, because leaves are never a single colour, are they? That's just the reality of life, is that they're not. And because I know I'm going to be doing lots of inherent colour mixing, I have taken the paints out of the pot so I don't contaminate the base points, but also with the smaller pots it's just easier to do that. So there we are, and these can go in, and they'll pick up the wet darker green, and that's fine. And they'll mix and merge. Make sure we get it covered, because otherwise white bits will irritate me long term. And then we'll soften the edges just by dragging it into it. And yeah, I could have done all of this up front, but that's not the purpose of a live, is it? For me, it's about mindfulness, it's about creating, it's about enjoying the process, it's about troubleshooting and keeping the project making real, really. So I think there's a little stem in there that I painted brown, so that's also fine. There we go, add some more green. And I'm not quite doing this at random. I've picked a side that I want to be darker than the other, or more less bright, shall we say. And so I'm keeping to that on the side of the leaves, so it's as if the light is picking up differently in the different areas. But as I say, it doesn't have to be 100%. It is at the end of the day, it's how you see it and how you're happy with your make that's the really important thing for me. And rather than necessarily being precise with what we're doing. So as you can see, I'm not actually just whacking it on. I am taking a degree of time to mix my pieces and popping stuff together. So I wonder if hubby's finished cooking that breakfast yet. There we are. I think this is quite a good way of just adding interest to your moulded pieces. The companies put lots of texture into their moulds when they're making them. So to me it makes sense to use that texture that's been provided for the makes as much as you possibly can. Now I know I've got a reasonably steady hand, but you can stabilise your brushes, and certainly having a small brush when you're doing this allows you to be more accurate than if you're using one that's much bigger. Small rounds are really good for detail painting. Just do that. And this way, every single piece that I make will be different, because there's no chance that I'm going to do them all identically. And I just think it keeps your projects real, which is a good activity, a good thing. And that's why, whilst I'm very happy for people to take the inspiration, copy it completely if they want to. I know that whatever you do, you're never going to get it exactly the same as mine, so it will be your own unique piece of artwork. Because when if you're cutting a piece of paper, then you can definitely reproduce exactly. But when it comes to having to get paint out or add colour, then the blending is never going to be quite the same. The colour mixes is never going to be quite the same. So you'll have your own unique piece. Inspired by? Yes. but at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with inspired by in any way, shape or form. Yeah. Now then, have any of you lovely ladies got any suggestions as to what I do with my ridiculously large stash of makes that I've got? I've dispatched a whole mountain up to the lovely Liz, who's having a de-stash, and she's going to see if we can shift some of the de-stash to give us some kitty money for more products. Not that we really need it, but I just needed some space, because one thing for certain, having the decorators in has proven that I have a ridiculous amount of stuff. Apple crumble for pud. I think, well, we're going to have a roast dinner this evening because it's Sunday, and actually I've got all of my children home tonight. Well, my own children. I haven't got the stepchildren because they're adults and I've got their own children. I've got grandchildren that are the same age as my own biological children. And then I have a sticky toffee pudding that I bought in Costco pre-Christmas. So I think we might be getting that out, because I think it probably needs a sorry, not sorry. I have been described by, well, the lovely Agnieszka out in Ireland, who owns 14th Craft Bar. She's disbanded her entire DT and is going to use company paper manufacturers' DT projects for inspiration on her website going forward. But she describes me as the best enabler she knows. So watching my lives may not be good for your bank balance going forward, ladies going forward. I'm going to deliberately reverse these ones, so I don't want them all going dark one side and not the other. So you have been warned, ladies. I have, as I say, been described as a good enabler. I think that sometimes it's helpful to see something being used in real place, in a packet, as a blank surface. You know, maybe you just don't know what you would do with it, or have no ideas as to where you're going to go. I mean, that, at the end of the day, that's why the likes of Stamperia do their lives. It's to promote their products, to give people inspiration. You know, it's why Pentart have their lives with their creatives teams. And most paper companies nowadays are doing online tutorials in the forms of lives, aren't they? Because it then allows them to, you know, shows people what they can do, and maybe inspires them to raid their piggy banks. As I say, these are not company affiliated lives, and it just gives me complete freedom to make with what I have, in the way that I want, when I want. With what I want. So, but I will try to have products that I know are accessible, and you will see me using older products as well as I work my way through my stash, with techniques that can be translated into newer ones, or hopefully will encourage you to get out your own stash and use some of the stuff that you already have, rather than necessarily buying new each time. So Jones, look, that sounds lovely, Joan, really lovely. I think it's nice to have a Scandinavian style buffet, isn't it? Because you can then, just put everything and people can get what they like, without any pressure. and then you don't have to go deal with, well, I can't do that because X won't eat that, and I can't do Y because A doesn't like that, and in our house I can't do that because someone's allergic to that. But I do have to be careful. I wouldn't, to be fair to my loving daughter, who is profoundly allergic to strawberries, I just don't have them in the house because it's just safer in those circumstances. We're all naughty. We all like stuff, don't we? We all want. They say that, if you've got Stamperia paints, acrylic paints, use those. They're good quality. If you've got Pentart acrylic paints, use that because they're good quality. If you've got Cadence, use them. Might not be my choice to work with because I'm not a fan of the multi-surface paints, but that doesn't mean that they won't work. And if you're happy with the results you get with them, then that's all that ultimately matters. I just think it is so important to be flexible around things. You might not get the same shade. Doesn't matter. Nature is not all one coloured, is it? There's very little that absolutely has to be the same all of the time. So we just have lots of painting that we just need to do, but then it won't take so long once the painting's done to pop things together. This is just a process and a pathway, and I'm hoping that it debunks the idea that everything mixed media needs to be grungy, because it so doesn't. Can be precise. It's a long time since I've done anything rusty, and I can say this now. I know I was naughty last week because I said something that I know wasn't public knowledge, but if anyone has seen the adverts or the promos for Stamperia's live for the 17th, they've clearly got a new wedding collection coming out with some soft pinks and some purples, but on that shot they have also got some steampunk characters, and those steampunk characters come from Voyages Fantastic. So that will be the third time they've brought that out. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other products that they're going to bring out with it. They haven't done the washi tapes before with that collection, and they haven't done rub-ons before with that collection, so I'm guessing there might be some of those. You will see me using Voyages Fantastic, I think, probably at some stage, because I've got stuff left, so we'll be using it, and I might just buy selectively from the new release some of the newer items. But sometimes I think it's some of the new items are you're just searching for something to find to justify doing something, saying it's a new release, rather than actually a logical addition. So we'll see how we feel, but we will get it out so that if any one of you are tempted to buy it, then I probably won't be getting, and therefore won't be making with the wedding collection, because I've got no need to be doing wedding things at the moment. But it definitely wouldn't be my go-to set of makes. I like that description, Liz. Your bed kept you prisoner. You see, I have to. So I try to get to the gym several times a week, and the gym that I go to has a booking system, and the booking launches 8 days before a class, which is fine, but it goes live at 7 o'clock in the flipping morning, and it's a very popular gym, and the class is very popular. So if you're not online at 7 o'clock in the morning, you then have to join the waiting list, and you may get something, and on the other hand, you may not. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain. So we're going to swap these ones out. We're going to. So one of the things with these moulds, because they're very depth, the Stamperia have got flat areas inside. Now I'm comfortable with that to work along with it, because I can see that actually, you know, you can just assume, you know, look past the fact that it's a flat area and it can be just tree, you know, leaves or things in the background. But yeah, I haven't worked a way of. If you're casting with clay, you could probably pick out each the separate bit separately. Life's too short. Life is too short. So I've let's just mix that in so it's not quite such a solid colour. So yeah, put each to their own. So in the clay, but for my mind it just looks like there's more layers of leaves below. Yeah, I know. 7 AM is a very antisocial time for the gym to expect people to be logging on. But then again, you know, it's all very well for us a lot that are semi-retired or retired. Yeah, we don't have to get up for work, do we? But there's an awful lot. Most gym users are going online before they go to work, I think, and therefore it's not surprising that they reset their time for them. But they do, as I say, they do offer a waiting list approach to life, and quite often, even if you're a silly number on the waiting list, you will get a space, because people will do what I did, which was go online this morning and cancel tomorrow because I've got someone coming to look at my conservatory roof, because inconsiderately, with about the bad rain last week, we decided that we would spring some leaks. So doing something which up till now has felt an extravagance, I'm afraid is now a necessity. It's very, very unfair, isn't it? But hey ho, that's just the way it is. You can see that, yeah, by mixing directly on my pieces, that I'm getting lots of variation in colour with pretty little, with little effort. Yeah, I am having to think about painting it, but it's not overtaxing the brain cells in any way, shape or form. I think the lovely Liz is possibly live later on today in her Journal It template group. So for you, those of you that like journal making, then please ask to join that group for this. She makes it start to finish. She's very good at drawing, unlike me. But she tends to make an arm. Would you like to pop your link into your group, Liz, so that you can see it? I've got some bits of there that I can see that I don't like, and then we can see if we can build your group. That would be good also. I'm all for helping support everyone. And for those of you that don't know, Liz and I work together. Liz does lots of the admin. It has to be said, I'm thoroughly lazy when it comes to technology and doing things like that. But we have a crafty retreat coming up the weekend before Easter, up on the Failed Coast. We use a bed and breakfast up there, run by the lovely crafter that many of us know, Sarah John Allen, and it keeps the price down to something that we feel is affordable, or more affordable than some of the classes and retreats that we've seen advertised. So if anyone wants to know about that, just watch our pages and see. It is a little bit on the middle of nowhere. It's accessible easy enough off motorways though, for those of you that can drive, and it's a whole weekend of activities, different classes, some mixed media, some paper crafts, some journaling, a properly good all-round mix. Thanks, Liz. of different things, so that you know, a good sampler of different activities. The ladies who've been before have said that, have been kind enough to say that they've enjoyed themselves, which is grateful. I'm sure they would have told us if they hadn't enjoyed it. There we are. And as I say, we mix it up so that if one thing doesn't suit, and hopefully people will leave inspired with lots of different techniques and ideas that they can then take away and explore, stroke experiment with doing their own things with as well. We've got a good number of repeat attenders now, and we also have we've got a lovely lady who is flying in. I don't think she's flying in, I think she's driving over in a motorhome, caravan, from Ireland to join us for the weekend, which will be lovely, lovely, lovely. There we are. So we're just while I'm wittering away. There is a purpose to my witterings, but I am spending time painting. So there we are. We're going to have to get the brown paint out, because guess what? Sloppy Miss has missed a bit there. Good morning, Anya. Welcome. We'll add in. Right, as I say, we're going to add some antiquing to some of these to bring out the detail, so actually it's less of a problem, but we've got them like this. So let's just add that, and any of the bits that we've missed will get picked up by the antiquing gel. So that's also cool for doing that. You could, I guess, use some watered down acrylics and then wipe back off the top. Good morning, Rena. Good afternoon, my darling. What time is it? So whereabouts in the world are you? It's not quite afternoon over here. It's 11:20. So we've been going about an hour and 20 minutes. That's the other joy of doing the lives for myself, is that I am not constrained by a group's requirements for it to be an hour, which means that I can do projects end to end. Properly start to finish, which I think is also a good move. There we are. Cool. So we are getting there. What's this lot? But for me, for most of my projects, mixed media projects, there's an awful lot of painting. And would it be quicker if I just slapped a single colour on black and then added colour over the top with sprays or liquid acrylics like a shuffle around? Yeah, possibly. Would I find it as relaxing? Probably not. But sometimes also I think it's important to show that things are real time, and I also think it's important to show that when things go wrong, because even if you are an experienced crafter, things do go wrong. Well, I think that's good. That being on your own is true for lots of people, Crafty Jacks. I think that it's good, isn't it, to do that. I'm reluctant to go down the path of saying this is exactly what I'm using, and then people feel that they can only watch their lives if that's if they've got that stuff. But I'm happy to do makes where people can then use what they've got. Particularly when it comes to papers, because if you're, I suspect I'm not alone. in having about 25 tons of papers lurking around that really need to be used. Because that's one of the headaches. Thank you, Liz, of working for design teams. You get so much product, but not everything, and so actually being on a design team costs money. And some of them will get papers, but some of them you'll get bases, but nothing, nothing else to put on them. I'm not complaining, because that's what you sign up for when you agree to be on a DT. It's a good way of using up stash, but it often means that you are then supplementing and buying, and then if something's then gone out of stock elsewhere, it's difficult to use that up. But making for myself means that I can mix things around, which is also good. Though I am going to be radical. My lovely friend Liz is setting a very good example by clearing stuff out of her cupboards. I've even got a table to sit at now. Yay! I definitely need to resort. The other problem, of course, with having too much stuff, I know that sounds like it's a third world problem, and the first world problem is that, but actually what it does mean is that you then don't know what you've got, and so then therefore you tend to grab the same stuff because it's easily got to, and you forget that you've got stuff. So then you think, stuff gets pushed further and further to a bottom of a pile, and then stands less and less use. So there is something for having your stash baby contained. So that you can mix things up. There we are. We are getting there. Maybe I should use less moulded pieces. Maybe I should, paper craft stuff will be predominantly paper. It has to be said. There might be some moulds around. I'll have to put my head around it. I might use Precious collection next week. On the other hand, I might not. We'll have a think. And then, as I say, we'll put some links for sizes up. So, I don't want this to be all one colour, and I'm beginning to run out of different bits. I was trying desperately not to have to reopen my pots, because I'll squish out far too much. But that's life. I'll just pop a little bit onto there. Onto there. Oh. Is it my best painting in the world? Probably not. Will it matter by the time I finish? Absolutely not. It will not. One little bit. Okay, let's just do that. Okay, let's pop that in there. That in there. Wipe up that, and then we'll do the words. We'll leave our brush protector. I'm going to put that on when we do some washing up of that. There we are. Let's just clear this. Pop that over there. Lay that down. So let's pop that over there. So that leaves us with, let's just pop those over there, pop those over there to dry. Some words. So this is patina green, which is a soft bluey green, and we're going to move from being precise with our painting to more slapdash. Maybe not quite the word I should be using. She says, having clearly gummed that pot together. Let's see if we can degum this, otherwise we'll be going and finding another one. Am I abusing my scissors? Yes. Will I regret that? Yeah, I will, because I bent them. Let's see if we've managed to Oh no. Right. Well, there we are. So we make her a nice set of scissors. Let's stretch them back. And we're wanting a soft. Oh well. We'll not bother. We'll not worry. We'll not worry. We'll go with this. I'm going to add some colour and some waxes to this anyway. So there we are. That will work. So this is patina green. Hubby will unblock that pot for me at some point in life. There we are. He's very good at unblocking pots for me. Let's just not have too thick a layer in amongst that. I am conscious we have been here a reasonable amount of time this morning, but hey ho, that's okay. We've got good numbers watching. I'm very impressed at everyone, and thank you all very much for giving up your Sunday mornings to watch. So it's me quite happy. So these all come from the Coffee and Cream collection. It's the joy of having collections that with everything all coordinated. You could use a word from anything. There's lots of different word moulds out there, aren't there? Or you could just cut up a piece of paper and add that, or die cut yourself some letters and add a title. There we are. I'm going to give these a little bit of a dry in a minute, because we're all but there with the painting. She says, thankfully. There we are. We might grab a different patina in a minute. I know exactly where it is, and I think it will really work quite well when these are dry. There we are. Cool. So that can go there, that can go there, that mess can go there, that can go in there. Let's just pop these out of the way, that out of the way, that out of the way. That can go there, that can go there. Then we've got some space. We can give these a little bit of a blast. She says throwing stuff about, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? So some of these pieces will be dry, some of them are not. Some of it I just need to get dry enough to move. Crafty Jacks, what are you like? What are you like? But I think we're all guilty of it. Have I got products in my stash that I haven't used? Oh, absolutely I have. Have I got products in my stash that I've used once or twice, not bothered with, let them dry out so I can't use them? Absolutely I have. Am I guilty of buying some things more than once, forgetting I've got the first one? Well, yeah, Absolutely I am. There we are. Right, now then. So right back at the beginning of the live, I acrylic primered this, added 2 layers, then used my decoupage glue and varnish, and pop this on the floor to dry. And I'm just going to, and you'll notice that I go up and down, and I'm actually only hitting my rice paper on the down stroke of here, but this is going to allow me to have a nice background, minimal effort, to build everything on. And I'm going to have a nice half of a rice paper to do for another project on another day, which is also good. Yeah, probably good job, because you could have put another pot in your, when you ordered from That's Crafty, your mould, couldn't you, my darling? You could easily have done that. There we are. So that can go over there, that can go over there. I don't need to ink these edges because it's going in a mould, so that can go there. Right, I'm rather hoping that that is now properly dry. I am going to give it a blast just with where I'm up to, and let me just grab, whilst the going is good, leaning over anything and everything that we've got. I don't want the turquoise, don't want the grey, do want the dark blue. There we are. Excellent. Those can go over there, those can go over there, that can come over there. Right. This is the ochre antiquing gel, and it's too close in colour to that, and this is the white. And just because they are together, and I'm going to be very naughty, I'm just going to slop some of this onto here, and I'm going to double dip. I'm going to be able to mix my colours into here live on my piece, so I've got variegations in my colours going around my thing. I don't really want all of that in there. Now these are permanent once they're dry, so if you're not used to working with these, then just be aware that once it's dried on the piece, it will be permanent. So as I didn't want it all to be ochre, and I didn't really want pure white either, because that didn't seem to me to be logical for my piece. And am I being extravagant? Yeah. Does it matter? No. Right, so that can go there, that can go there, that can go there, that can go in there. I guess it is naughty to double dip, but there's me pack of wipes. So I wipe back either with a damp cloth or not. It's going to come around the edges, and that's fine. So this will then lift off my texture and bring it all back into place. We'll soften the edges. There isn't lots of texture on the edges anyway, and that's also fine. And one of the things that you must remember is when you're doing wiping back, actually, if you don't swap to your clean pops, your clean pieces, then actually all that happens is you just spread what's on your cloth over and move it about, rather than lifting and having your colour variation. Good morning, Wanda. Thank you for joining me at this ungodly hour of the day for you. There we are. So I'm just going to wipe that off. So I've now got a mixture of colours and tones in here, rather than it all being things. And I'm wanting some of those beans to be just a bit darker. Once it's dried, it will be permanent, ladies. There we are. So now I have a very textured, but also my antiquing is variegated, which was what I wanted to do. Yuck, she says. We'll pop that there. We'll give this a little brush dry, and then we're going to pop the base piece in, and then we're going to add some extra colour to the other pieces. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how it changes. And just because something says it's one colour in a pot, I would also say always go for white, always go for black. That way you can change your shades and your tones of the other products in the line. Because there isn't this sort of murky colouring. I didn't want to use the vintage patina in rust. It's too orange in colour. It has undoubtedly got its place, but it's not, I'm going to say it wasn't the colour that I really wanted. There we are. So let's just pop that into there. Let's get this. Right, into there. Come on. This is the only pain of using frames, isn't it? There we are. We're all in. I'm not going to pop that in too tight for reasons that will become clear. I want a bit of play at the moment. I can tighten it. So that is our background from here there. I'm going to stick that over there. So there we are. So these pieces need some extra colour adding into them. Shimmer glaze, dark blue, don't want that, don't want that, don't want that. So this is the grey. I could have picked a brown, but actually I'm going to go with the grey because it's going to sit in the recesses, and the recesses should be darker, shouldn't they? I could mix this with black and white, but Stamperia have it all pre-made in that colour, so yeah, use what you have, mix what you have. It's a very dark colour, but it's going to sit into the recesses of all of these pieces. I have to say, I seriously questioned Stamperia, Pentart's brains when they brought out the antiquing things, and the vintage patinas then came from Stamperia. But I have to say that they are now amongst my most used products. There we are. So that looks now got lots of more detail back into here. It just makes a huge difference, I think. There we are. The green that comes with it, I really don't like. It's sort of dirty green. She says, but hey ho. And these almost have a waxy finish component into them, so that they will add a layer of wax to your finished piece, pieces that to protect. There we are. But I just, again, they just allow you to do that. And I could have used, you know, the antique paste, but they are metallic and shiny, and that's not, again, it wasn't what I was wanting. So my coffee beans in there definitely now look like roasted coffee beans. There we are. Anya, I'm using a damp wipe, my darling. Thank you for joining me this morning. I'm definitely using a damp rather than a wet cloth. And they lift quite well this way. I just find it easier. You will go through your cloth, so you could use kitchen towel. We've got some here I can show. So I can lift it off with a towel. But I just find that the wet wipe, while it's wet, will help to lift it off. If I wanted all of the paint to stay completely intact, I would add a layer of varnish beforehand, but for these I'm not worrying about the texture differences that I'm getting. So what should we do? Let's go with the same for the leaves. And as I say, you could just as easily be mixing your own shade of grey with yeah, with black and white antiquing gel. It's just that the Stamperia happen to have one that's already pre-mixed for you. And what this will do is the bits in these moulds where in the background will become even darker, and then again it will bring more shade and detail to your pieces. There we are. I can add some dry brushing, or I can add some waxes. You can really add what you want to as you go. Good morning, Anna. Where did that go? Not a clue. That's not helpful. Hey ho. We will find that after the live. Because otherwise we might be a little while finding that. Because it could have gone underneath the table just as easily. So I haven't used a varnish on these, and I'm risking lifting some of the paint as a consequence, because it's touch dry, but it's not dry. But that's fine for me for this make. Generally, I would say that I would add your varnish beforehand, and you could use whatever you fancy. So it could be matte, it could be shiny. It just provides an extra layer to protect your pieces when you're adding an extra colour and then wiping back. But I am aware that these pieces are decorative, and longevity is less of an issue for me. But if you're making to sell, and that's your primary intention, then whilst you don't technically have to add wax on, a varnish underneath, you might feel happier by doing so. Choice be yours. There we are. There is only one way of doing this, really, and that's to do it all. If I added a layer of varnish over all of this lot, you'd be with me another hour while we added it and then let it dry. That is another advantage of doing a project over a couple of days, is that we can then, we could get to a point, and then and then, you know, let the varnishing dry, or do some of it and then I can say, you know, now let this lot dry, and then we will you come back tomorrow and do this and assemble. And that's an option again if the people feel that the lives that I'm doing like this are just too long. For me, it's just the way I work. But as I say, if I was doing, you know, some of it, I might, you know, not on a live, I'd walk away, go and find a cup of coffee, go out shopping, go and see a friend, whatever, and then come back to it. But I sometimes think it's easier than if you're doing a live to have the whole thing done, if it's doable, and this is doable. There we are. We're getting there. We can see what a difference by adding the antiquing does. There is, and these, as I say, I'm using the antiquing gels because they're matte. I didn't want a shimmer from which is the new ones, and I didn't want metallic, which is what I would get if I used the antiquing paste. So this is about knowing your product and understanding the effect that you're wanting long term. You enjoy the longer life, thanks for doing it. Okay. Well, I say it's easier sometimes to do a longer life and have a finished project, than think, oh, I can't meet the second part of it. And I also think it gives a more honest approach as to how long a project might actually take you. Yeah, I have, you know, I accept that I had done some of the priming up front. See, I think if you take these two pieces, they're like chalk and cheese now, aren't they? With all the detail brought out. And it just does make a big difference to the pieces. Don't use your nice best brushes for this, because I'm scrubbing it into all of the nooks and the crannies. Yeah, and that's not good for, you know, it's not good for your brushes. But it's actually what's needed to get that effect, because you want it into all of the nooks and the crannies. And if I want to add wax on top of this, I can do, for some of to bring out some of the details again. There we are. And because I have, and because these now stand out like sore thumbs, this is the dark blue. And if I mix some of it with a little bit of the black that's on my brush already, don't matter, don't no matter. Let me just do this rather than waste it all. As I say, once these are dry, they're dry, so you do have to be prepared to move relatively quickly at this stage if you just do lots of them together. I'm not overly minded, but you'll see what a difference, and this will then become more tonally correct for the overall piece that I'm making. So if that's okay, there we are. We'll just wanted some added colour on my project. Didn't want it all to be greens and browns. There we are. Let's just wipe that. over there, back over there, pop that in there, stick that out of the way. And then I'm going to wipe my mitts because they're vile. They are vile. And yeah, the patinos, they really work. They really do work. Some of this is now, you can see what I mean by the antiquing gels are permanent once they're dry. Let me just grab, yeah, and get off what I can. Yeah, the patinas really make, they just change it up completely. They change the overall feel of what's going on completely. Let's just shuffle those over there. So, icky. She says, having cut out some bits of paper from collections. There's another brush saver. Right, so let's pop that. Yeah, you should now. Let's let that catch up. I think we should now have that where I want it. So I happen to know I want that on there, and I didn't want cafe, but that will sit on there. One of those we have chopped off. There we are. So there we are. We're going to pop those onto there. Comme ça for the moment. And we might well pop another one of those into there. So we've got our vines coming down. This one I'd already pre-chopped a bit off from what's going on. Good morning, Elizabeth. It must be quite early in where you are in the States, I think. Now, remember when I put the backing back in, I said I didn't want it in solid? This is why, because this is going to allow me to tuck stuff underneath and in. I don't want that big blob though of white there, because I'm using the heavy body gel matte, which will dry opaque, and that's not what I want. The frame has worked out beautifully, hasn't it? So that can go into there, that can sit down there. That can sit there. That will squash, and that's also fine. There we are. Good morning, Sophia. Thank you for joining us. We are just popping together our piece. So we now have some extra bits that I'm going to add into here to cover up some of my layers. Yeah. Let's just get rid of the excess off there that we've been mucky with, and that's also fine. So that can go onto there. And we're going to pop that onto there at an angle, and then we have a word, because I didn't want cafe, because I'm just difficult. There we are. So that's going to sit onto there, and I'm applying the same principles for what I'm doing. I've got my layers. Now I know that I want that, that one's going to sit somewhere over there. We've got some extra bits to come into here. We're going to pop love there. We're going to pop energy there, sitting across those two. Yeah, so that is now very wobbly, which is never good. Yeah, but I can then start to pop into place some of these extra pieces to link and build my pieces. So and that will help to fill in some of these pieces. I'll pop that over there. That's going to sit more balanced, more manageable, just as is. Okay. And we have some pieces of paper from the collection, so let's just add some ink from around these. So in the collection, from there, were some of these pieces. I'm going to start adding some of these, and I don't want the whole of that coming out, and that so I'm going to build my layers as if these are advertising pieces, one on top of each other. So that can sit in there, and we can pop that piece there, and I don't want all of that, and we're definitely going to go for on the wonk, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm going to add that piece there, and that can go on there. We've got some little coffee cups, so that can now sit lifted forward onto there. So that now needs edging. So that will sit into there. If you wondered why I picked that blue that I'd picked earlier on, this coffee cup is part of the collection. So that can sit into there. We do have another one of these, and I might cover that and have two coffee pots because I rather like that. So let's just cover those white edges, and we're going to give this a little bit of a shape so it's not completely flat. So this can now come round, and that can sit covering that coffee cup up, because I don't particularly want that coffee cup, and that this coffee cup can go there. Right, tuck that down, and because you have to have, you know, you've got three, there are three, I'm going to pop this coffee cup into down there, and then I've got 3 cups, not 4, and I have layered my piece. She says getting gel medium on the stuff, which is not what she wants to do, so that piece will then sit into there. That's looking a bit abandoned up there at the moment, and that's also fine. So we're going to pop that piece there, that piece there, that piece there, and sit onto there. And that leaves us a piece there. She says let's get rid of that. So we might not have that piece, we might not need another one of those, we might just go we might just pop that. Let's get this so we're happy with it. So we will get there. I'm going to pop that actually underneath there to help support that piece. That one can then go into there, and I think I'm actually just going to pop that flat and leave that piece out. So I still have some extra pieces that are here, so that I might stick that up underneath there, so that will work. And we might just pop this piece up under here. So let me just grab my distress ink. This is an archival ink, ladies. It's not a there we are. That piece can go there. That needs a bit of dimension, so you can tell that this has come from the back of a piece of paper. Doesn't need to be much. Let's just pop little bits of those. Pop that where we want to hide that coffee cup. And then we can add some ink to this. Thank you, Crafty Jacks. These have come from the back pages. Do I happen to have any pin flare gel? No. Would I use it if I had? Yeah, I would. But hey ho, there we are. Right, let's add some of these. We might just lift that one up so it's not flat. Right, really well. We do have an Arabica bean box. Which we're going to pop into there because we can. Would I be better with my pin flare glue down? Yeah, absolutely. And I want that to lift higher. So, so as I say, don't be afraid of grabbing your pieces and brush saver can go there, and then adding pieces in. That can be a little bit curved over. We are nearly finished for the morning, ladies. Yeah, you see, this is real life, isn't it? 2 hours for a project. I still think it's pretty good going, but that's the reality. That's what it takes to do a piece like this, is that it's going to take a bit of building. And that can sit there. Right, excellent. Do I want that there? The answer on a postcard, please. It's a bit empty down there, but I'm not sure I want the whole of that piece. So let's just add these as we go, and then I can fit and fiddle because we've used the pieces that we had made. Oh, we can move this all along a little bit. There we are. Just clean that because that will help there. Let's just add this piece onto here. Wow, thank you, Anya, that's a lovely thing for you to say. So that's going to nestle into there. Let's just pop that word so it's vaguely straight. Fill in that. I can pop that. Let's just have a little wipe of this mess. It's absolutely easier to move them wrong places, Alison, and the other thing with the pin flare is that it yellows over time. So if you get it where you don't and then you think you've wiped it up, actually it's not necessarily properly wiped up. And you'll find that it yellows. Well, that's certainly my experience. Thank you, Jan. This is all about composition. Yeah, it is all about composition. And I do, ahead of my lives, I do know approximately where I'm going with my pieces. It's not that I don't know where I'm going with them, because I do, if that makes sense. So that piece is going to go into there. Now at this point I can pop that into there, or I can pop it there, and because I've put this there, I'm actually going to tuck this down into there because I think it's going to sit better. And And I have a hot glue gun on at this point for this one, because I'm going to need instant stick in some areas, otherwise it's going to go every which way. Okay. Put a glue stick in it would probably help. Well, in fact, it will definitely help. There we are. Excellent. So, we have, these are cut from the paper. So these are little coffee beans. And I did have 5 cut out, and can I find 5 now? No. Have I got more I can cut out? Yeah, I have. But we might just add 3. On the other hand, we might not. We might add 4. And then cut some more pieces out. Oh, now I found the 5th one. You see, don't like 4s generally. There we are. There's another one. I don't like this bit where I've got that leaf floating in free air. So it just looks like it's plonked there. Whereas if I add that there, it'll disguise it for me. And I think I'm going to pop that one just there. Okay, cool. Right, let's pop the lid on that. Pop the lid on that. Put the lid on that. We're still lacking, for my eye, a bit of depth, and that's fine. So this is just an off-white chalky paint. I could add waxes. I just think it's all a bit dark. Let me just knock off most of that. But this will brighten up the whole piece by adding in just that little bit. And it's not a proper white, it is very definitely a creamy white. There we are. Oops, she says, having clearly popped way too much onto there. We'll just wipe that off. That is definitely the joy of the gel medium. She says, and promptly does it again. Hey, I don't know. I think I'm getting tired. But that's fine. There we are. Let's just pop that into there. I just don't want to add a shine element to this, whereas that does work for me. And then I guess it wouldn't be my piece without a bit of splatter to pull it all together. So let's pop that in there, pop that there, pop that there. Give that a spray. And pick up a splatter brush. and this will link all of the layers together. And I could add some black, could add some brown, but actually I think we're going to stop at that today. Rather than adding any extra colours into it. There! You'll be delighted to know, ladies, for now, that is finished and I'm very happy with it. So I hope that that's been a good activity for you, those of you that have spent your morning with me. Let's pop the lid on that so I don't forget it. I know I've got a lid to find. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna. There we are. So, I'm going to finish my live now. I wish everyone an enjoyable rest of the day. Please take care. Remember to look after yourself and those of others, because that's always a really important thing. I just need to do a little fiddle so I can move my computer mouse so I can swap screens and finish my streaming. So take care for now, have a good day, and I'll see you on social media next weekend. Bye!